But somehow he brought Dottie with him to North Carolina from New Jersey, and she managed to survive that first trip among many different transitions. And now the wife of 50 plus years with a beautiful family is quite amazing. But I do need to ask Mike one thing. Bucky always claimed that with his kids, he has 12 grandchildren. As he explained to them the facts of life, he also put in a shot clock in their bedrooms. Now, I don't know if that's true or not. Although Mike said it was true, but he took the batteries out. So, we're just the 6 children. So, there you go. A little anecdote about coaching and how you infuse your coaching skills to your family. There you go. So let's move now to his coaching career, which Albert has alluded to, in his broadcasting career. There was troubled times when Bucky was a coach. He doesn't talk about it much, but that was the Vietnam era. Things were going on campuses. It was a difficult time. Discipline was something that, people resisted. The kids in college didn't want to do things, didn't want to be told what to do. And he was a coach in the midst of all that, trying to instill discipline and team concept in all the teams that he coached. In fact, I'll never forget, Buck, even when I worked with him for all these years, the one thing he always reminded me of, and it was so true, I was an athlete in my day too, that it doesn't matter as long as you don't care that you don't get the credit and that the team does well, that's the most important thing. And he's always lived by that credo. And I thought that's very impressive, because there aren't a lot of people who do that and actually carry through a sports metaphor into their real life. But he's done that, and I think the things that he does in terms of his volunteerism and the things for which we're recognizing him for is ample proof of that. Now, he had a lot of good teams with Vic Bubas here at Duke. They went to number Final Fours and things. But one of the things he doesn't talk about, but you should ask him about before I moment, are the guys who got away. Bucky was in charge of recruiting for Vic. And he had one of the greatest teams that never got here. Including Bill Walton, this is true, and Bill Bradley. They were coming to Duke. But somehow, I don't know what happened. They screwed it up. They didn't come. But they were signed, sealed, and they didn't get delivered. But the good part about this is that at some point in time, he made a deal with then Senator Bradley, should he ever run for president, he wouldn't tell the story about what really happened in public, as long as he could have a post, a foreign diplomatic post. And Bill suggested that Afghanistan might be a really good spot. So we're still waiting for that ambassadorship to come through. Look at that. Moving now to Duke Medical Center, and as Bucky's illustrious career through his broadcasting for many, many years, he will readily admit he had a great face for radio, but somehow I kept putting him on TV. I don't get that either, but what am I going to do? That's the way it is. But he was wonderful. He was my mentor at the medical center. I've been there 21 years. He hired me, and it gave me an opportunity to work in a great place with great people doing great things. And the thing that always impressed me in our day-to-day activities, and we shared this real estate for 20 years, we were cellmates there. He always went out of his way to help people he didn't even know. Dottie and Bucky would open their homes to people who were coming here from long distances for cancer. Didn't know who they were, but didn't have places to stay. They were going to be here for long treatment stays. And they would readily open their home and make it available to folks like that. And that's something that you just don't see very often. And he also started the Duke Classic, which I'm sure many of you have been involved in as volunteers over the course of 35 years. And that was a wonderful event and raised millions of dollars for the Duke Children's Hospital, enabled us to do many of the things we do for our kids here, not only here in the area, but they travel long distances to come to the Duke Children's, thanks to Bucky and how that all thing gets the great run that we had for 35 years. So I thank all of each of you who also participated as volunteers and other folks in the Children's Classic. And as Albert says, he did get an honorary doctorate at the medical center upon his retirement. Of all the disciplines and specialties one can think about, obstetrics, gynecology, sports medicine, a big psychiatry. There's a reason for that, Albert. Maybe because some of the friends he runs with, he figured he could collect that copay pretty easily. So he does have a doctorate degree, so don't be shy about calling him Dr. Waters. I still call him Coach. Last thing I'll say is Dottie reminded me, be brief and you shall be asked back, which I hope We mentioned the V Foundation, of course, the Durham Rescue Mission, got before one of the things that Bucky's been involved in, but he's always been a giving person. And it's a real tribute and an honor and a great recognition for him to receive your award. He's been a singular guy in his community, has given a lot back, more so maybe than he's even received. And I think that's a tribute to him and his graciousness as an individual, as a coach, as a team player, as a God-fearing man. And he'll always be my good friend and my mentor. I'll just leave with one other word of advice for the assembled masses here. If you play golf with him, now that he plays from the red tees, remember two things. He has a bionic eye, and he has those hearing aids. And so he never remembers the bets he loses, because he always thinks he never heard it. So just be careful, write it down, proof is always good. And thank you all for giving me a few minutes to talk about my good friend Bucky, and thank you for honoring him with your tribute.
I hope I can get through this without my eyes sweating, but I probably won't, and make no apologies for it. I don't cry, but my eyes do sweat. You've heard a lot of things that Coach Waters has done tonight, a lot of benevolent things he's done in the community children's class at the Doctor Corner. I know he's a stalwart at the Durham Rescue Mission. You heard mentioned just a minute ago about how he has opened his home to folks not knowing who they are. I'm a wild-eyed, right-wing, Bible-thumping Christian evangelical, so I'm going to read your Bible first. Amen. That's just me. I did that in court today. You can ask me after why I do it. Sometimes I preach in court. It was appropriate. It's Jesus in his Sermon on the Mount, Matthew 6, 1 through 4, and I think says a lot about you. This is what Jesus said. Beware of practicing your righteousness before other people in order to be seen by them. For then you'll have no reward from your Father who is in heaven. Thus, when you give to the needy, sound a trumpet before you, as the hypocrites do, in the synagogues and in the streets, that they may be praised by others. Truly I say to you, they have received their reward. But when you give, not say if, but when you give to the needy, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing, so that your giving may be in secret, and your Father, who sees in secret, will reward you. As you go through life, you never know what this little event here today, what the repercussions are going to be down the road, positive or negative. You never know. Let's take you back to about 1985. We just adopted our first child from Korea, and Renee would stay at home, and she got the opportunity to be involved in the community Bible study. Got to be involved in the leadership team. She got the pleasure of working with Guiding Waters. We were a young couple. I was practicing law, private practice. I always had a hard time cycling two people as they deserve, so we won't make a whole lot of money. But hey, that's just the way it was. But God called us to adopt our first child, and that is a story how that worked. I mean, that's a story in itself. But we knew that God was calling us to adopt a second child from Korea. So we just stepped out in faith. In 1988, we got a call from our adoption agent saying, well, your son has been born, but you need to send us $3,600 now. So Renee put it on the prayer chain from her community Bible study and left to go over there. And not long after that, I got a call from Miss Guiding Waters. She says, come get him. Me and Bucky says, that's what we need to do. No strings attached. Now, we've never shared this publicly who the benevolent souls were. Never have. This is the first time it's been pronounced. We've shared this story in abstract to a lot of our friends. But you and Donnie never know which you're in our family. Friends and family. Our church now is an adoption care ministry, orphan ministry.